Hello everybody, I'm John and welcome to Chip Damage. I think that's what we're calling it now, I'm not certain. I'm gonna have to check on that. Chip Damage sounds pretty cool, right? But this is going to be very similar to my Destiny video in the sense that it's going to be a pros and cons type list and I'm going to try to compare two things. Or, well, I didn't compare two things in Destiny, but you get what I mean. But this time I'm going to be looking at physical versus digital, and I'm not going to look into which one's better or the other, because right now in Australia, it's a matter of preference. Depending on where you are, different things work for different people. And what brought this up was recently, more like a month ago now, the GameStop CEO talked about how their physical presence still matters and how they're still selling pretty well. And I figured that I'd look at the pros and cons versus physical and digital and see where we go with that. But I'm going to start with physical because, as you can see in the background there, I kind of like having physical games, even though I have 600 or something, or 500 something Steam games. But doesn't everybody at this point? So for me personally, it is just easier to drive down to the local retail shop, whether that be EB Games, Big W or Target, and quicker to do this than it is to download a game through Xbox Live, Steam, etc. Depending on the game, of course. I actually timed myself, and it's about an hour and 3 minutes for getting down to the shopping center, finding a park, getting the game, and coming back. And this is different for people in different regions, of course. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to go to an EB Games or go downtown in a place like Brisbane, Melbourne or Sydney, but I guarantee that it's probably going to take longer than an hour. But unfortunately, we are subject to the will of these retail shops. Australia doesn't exactly have the best track record for having the same release date as the rest of the world. More often than not, we're behind by a day or two, but that's not too bad. That's just time difference stuff coming into it. But there is the occasion that is actually pretty common that we get a game often a year or maybe a few months after release. That was the case with Shin Megami Tensei 4, which we didn't get for a year and a half later. I think we got that in November last year, maybe December. But my most recent example is this one here, Persona 4 Dancing All Night. This game came out on the 29th of September in the US, I believe. And it's coming out on November 13th in Australia. It still isn't out yet. It still doesn't come out for another 8 days. Yeah, 8 days. Wow, that's good math in my head. I'm getting better at this. We are behind by quite a bit on some games, and then there is the uncommon occurrence or the rare occurrence where we get a game much earlier, which is what happened with Yoshi's Woolly World. We got back in March, and US got it last month, I believe, or a few weeks ago. But nonetheless, we are still subject to these retail's whims in terms of release dates, and this is a pro and a con. Trade-in values. On the physical end of things, it's generally easier to return a game or trade in a game, but at the risk of getting a really low price. So I got Dragon Quest Heroes when it came out, which was like 3 weeks ago now. I got the game for around $99 and the trade-in value was $24 a week later. So at that point, it just wasn't worth trading and I just decided to keep it. And if you're on the receiving end of somebody trading in a game, you have to worry about disc conditions. But Blu-rays on the PS4 and Xbox One are generally very durable. They're hard to break. Like, those things take a beating. But hell hath no fury like a child with no respect for your possessions, you know? And I haven't run into this yet, but I wonder what happens to a damaged disc when you try to install the game. Does it install just error out? Which is another point, is that there's less to download. You put in a game, a hard drive isn't as much as a valuable commodity as it is from the digital side of things, because you can just delete the game, keep your save file, and install it at a later date. Whereas with digital, you have to consider how long do I want to keep this game, because it's going to be a pain in the ass to download again. But on that end, we also can't pre-download patches, which... How big was that Master Chief Collection multiplayer again? 25 or 30 gig or something like that? It might have been 50, jeez. So that was pretty much about physical. There was a few points that translate to digital points that I'm going to talk about now. And the first one is... You're able to preload the game and the patches. So my first successful experience with preloading was with Halo 5 behind me here. That game is 55 gig. And I managed to preload it just fine, didn't have any issues, but when Bloodborne came out earlier this year in April, I believe it is, I'm trying to get that from memory, I pre-ordered it and I could preload it, but it didn't start downloading until the game actually came out, so I had to wait anyway. I may as well just went to a midnight release or just picked it up in the morning instead of waiting all night for it to download. And that takes a while, considering games are fucking huge nowadays. Like Halo 5, like I said, is 55 gig, and according to Akami's State of the Internet, the average Australian download speed is 6.9 megabits per second. So I decided to do a little experiment and go to different download calculators, because I couldn't be bothered to do the math myself, and get an average of how long it would take to download 55 gigs on 6.9 megabits per second. And the average I got was 18.25 hours to download Halo 5 on a 6.9 megabits per second connection. That being said, I have a slightly higher 10 megabits per second, but on the average, I figure that's probably a more clear indicator. And especially with the NBN appearing more like acne across Australia than the total coverage it's supposed to be, this is still probably a very big problem for a lot of people in a lot of households. Especially when I'm lucky in the sense that I'm the biggest internet user in this house, whereas my dad might stream Netflix or something every now and then. Whereas I imagine in a city area where it's more densely populated and you're actually sharing with housemates, they're probably gonna be annoyed if you're downloading Halo 5 for a full day and tanking their Netflix streams on their day off. But another big thing in the digital marketplace is that we have more games than we know what to do with. In fact, digital has more indie games thanks to the self-publishing model now more than ever before. And that is an awesome thing. Hell, my game of the year last year was a self-published indie game by the name of Shovel Knight. And I can share these game of the year experiences easier with my friends. Yeah, that being said, I can't just give a disc of Undertale or Ori to Diego or Pengo. I can just give them a gift through Steam. And the features they're adding to digital marketplaces like Xbox Live, PSN, and Steam, that stuff is all really, really cool. But on the digital side of things, and this is my last point, this was actually really quick, I didn't expect this, but the last point I really have is that prices on digital are generally higher for longer. I'm not factoring in sales, this is just flat prices. Like, I have an example right here. WWE 2K16, a game I really don't care about, and you probably shouldn't care about either. It doesn't look too great. That came out on the 27th of October, so it's not too old, and it is $99 on the Australian PlayStation Network right now. But at Big W, it is $79.99 in retail, or you can buy it for $88 online. And it just goes to show, if you're patient, just to buy even a day or two, like these retailers, other than EB Games, sell their games for lower really quickly, compared to these digital stuff where they don't have to worry about all these stock issues. They can just keep selling at a higher price. But that being said, right now one is not better than the other with the state of the internet in Australia. That is a big factor into sort of deciding what is the best way to deliver games. Hard drive spaces on consoles are a valuable commodity. Right now, my PS4 and my Xbox One only have 500 gig, and those games are big and getting filled up really quickly, so physical is another pro. That being said, I love indie games, and they're only on digital right now, or mostly digital. At some point, digital will become more convenient for people, just across the board, but as of right now, there are so many pros and cons, there's so many caveats on both sides of the board, that it just depends on where you live. That is about everything that I can think of. Hopefully I didn't blabber too much or restate myself too much like I did with that Destiny video. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching Chip Damage. I will see you guys next time. Bye.